Hi, Meret.
Hey! Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you here. How are you?
You got short hair, I got long one.
Yeah, really? Last time when you saw me?
It's too long ago.
Yeah, probably. But I was really like almost bald 2 months ago.
All
Yeah,
right.
but it's okay, for summer, and especially when you were on quarantine, I did my haircut by myself. It was very easy with the machine.
You have a nice head.
Yeah. So, how are you doing there?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Not in quarantine, so I was out with Kilian and another dancer from the company to clean our studio, paint the windows new, and do a good job. And so I'm glad we can move. We can be outdoors. We only need masks for public transportation.
Ah, okay. It's the same. Yeah, it's the same like in Ukraine now. Yeah.
Okay.
And Kilian is already back. Yeah.
He is. He came, I think, last Saturday.
Cool.
Or Sunday. Yes.
Yes. So I have a few questions I want to start with, and then we will see where we go. I was looking for any information about you were dancing, where you were dancing before you were the director of Tanzhaus.
Oh.
And I didn't find anything. That's why I have this question. What was your dance career and what you were doing before you start being the director of Tanzhaus?
Well, I'm a pre-digital generation. So I have VHS videos, but most at the time when I started, we didn't use video at all. It was too expensive, like all the equipment. Sometimes you did take pictures, but it was more like drawing sketches, or it was not this thing about documenting every move, every idea. That's why you don't find anything. And I don't find it so important. Because for me, dance is like communication. It's like being in an interaction with somebody, with the audience. It's something also personal, you could say, not private, but it's like, yeah. So I started dancing in the living room at my parents' house with a record player. So jumping too much to Dvorak, Slavic dances, was kind of tricky.
Okay, yeah, but I was just thinking how this happened for you to become a director of Tanzhaus, because it's quite a lot of, as I understand, it's quite a lot of administrative work, and I don't know how it happened when somebody is a dancer. The dancer is about moving, about having a lot of activity, about being on the stage, about, as you said, communicating with people. And then one day it happened that you need to do administrative work. That's why I was interested how it happened with you. How was this shift for you?
I think I was dancing in the United States a lot and in Europe, because in the 70s, it was the year of collaborations, of the hierarchies, like the vertical became more and more horizontal also, regarding like collaboration with painters, with filmmakers, with musicians. So it was, and that always interested me. And then whenever I came back to Switzerland, because I always missed Europe, I really missed Europe. The different people, dance, temperament, languages.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, and at at a certain time, I think I must have been a bit, not in my 20s, my late 30s, maybe even. I got more and more interested, like what's behind the scene. I started working at the International Theaterspektakel, the big festival along the lake. I started working for alternative culture centers like Rote Fabrik or all these places. And I got more and more like, yeah, I just liked it, but I kept dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I heard about Tanzhaus needing a new director. And that time it was very difficult because they didn't get the support from the city that was needed. It was not enough, like internationally connected. And somehow they also asked me in the sense, like, can you imagine? And I did a lot of pirouettes, thinking, what happens to me when I cannot be creative? Because creativity is me. I'm not saying that it's an ingredient or a communication that I need. And so finally, I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I had worked at Gestrale before, jumping in when somebody was sick. So I knew about sort of the background, what it's needed.
Okay.
And then at Tanza, I found out that it can be a very creative job.
Okay.
Because you provide an environment for others to find their creativity. And since I'm an artist, I always was on the side of the artists and not the managers, not the money givers.
Yeah.
So for me, it was this also like a safe space, because when you're a dancer, you don't have a text between you and the audience, or a video, or a music, or an instrument. It's like your whole body, and you cannot separate from your body. And you give like full with all your hair, skin, soul, blood, and organs. So it's very important that you appreciate the risk the dancers take.
Yeah, but how it actually changed your life? Or it was just another way of being creative.
It was another way, but I also had to learn bookkeeping, all these things. And then I decided, I kept dancing, but I was not performing in Switzerland. And I thought, if I have this position, I want to separate it. Otherwise, like, it's like taking advantage from a position. And I think that was a wise decision. And then I studied cultural management. And you know what was, I was in at the University of Basel, and the class was really good. People, everybody was very much into already working. And for me, it was like 1 or 2 days a week, I could focus on something and not be at Tanzhaus. People ask me this, can you do this? Can you do that? And yeah, so I did it. I had to write the final paper like it was a master's, and I'll never do that again. Okay. But I learned the language of management. I learned how you use words to impress politicians. And I think that was a good tool, but I never lost my being an artist. So
your role as a director was also to talk with the funding organizations about financing and support the Tanzhaus.
Yes, there was a board, but I was for the artistic and administrative director.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, and what was actually the role? Because in Ukraine we don't have any organizations like Tanzhauses. We don't have any dance centers. I mean, we have some private, of course, but not supported by government, not government or municipal. And it's interesting, when you started working there, what was the role of Tanzhauses? I think it was not just one in Switzerland. I suppose there were many of them. And what was the role of them for the artists?
I think what you have to go understand in Zurich, like in the 1980, we had riots because all the money went to the opera, the State Theater, the State Museum, and yeah. And so, and there was a need for the young people to have alternative culture, to have alternative music and centers. And it was like, because we vote, we have all these referendums, and it was like, it's okay when they get all the millions, and young people said no. And we had riots on the street. And then there was this need for, there has to be something else for the younger generation.
When you say riots, do you mean it was a kind of protests?
Yes.
And what they were protested about? What they protested
Was all this about why don't we get an alternative? Don't we get a youth center? Why can't we have cheap space for concerts? Why don't independent artists get money for their art? It was an intense time.
What years when it happened? I don't know the
1980.
80s.
Like 40 years ago.
Oh, okay. And it's really changed the situation.
Yes.
And what started then?
And then and out of this came this idea, also the dance needs to have affordable studio space. So the city gave the dance scene studio space, and then they realized that's not enough. There needs to be more. There needs to be, you need to be seen. And so more and more the understanding of the politicians grew that it's important. And then the two people got the job, co-directors, to start this. And out of these rehearsal spaces, they got more space, and that's when Tanzhaus started.
Okay, and how the Tanzhauses support the artists? How this system work? What Tanzhaus do for artists?
It's still like this. It's like, one is to offer daily training in different, like contemporary, ballet, freestyle, and the other thing is to offer space for people to create.
You mean the rehearsal space?
Rehearsal space, but also places where they can perform and get funding to create a performance, a piece. So that was how it all started. It got bigger and bigger. And then when I took over, it was like we had a studio stage and 5 extra studios. And we had performances, we had short piece platforms, and I also wanted to make sure that it's not just pure dance, that it's this performance aspect, collaborations. And then it became clear that we needed a bigger space because the studio we had was very low and for lighting difficult. Finally, we could get a good space in the house next door, and it was the city who fought for it. Like I said, and there was a vote, referendum again, and then we got, like, every year we got money. Eventually, every 4 years you have to apply, and you get subventions, we call it.
So you mean all of these kind of questions, how it should be managed and how it should be supported, were made by the referendum, am I right?
Well, the money and the city, so it's public money, and when it has a certain level, it has to pass. When it's a little money, you don't have to pass like the big referendum. It's within, but then it got more. It was never enough.
Okay, so and now you have actually the new Tanzhaus.
Yeah, I'm no longer there.
The Toblerone. You call it Toblerone.
Yeah, it burned down the old studios, and then it was for the city and the politicians. It was clear there needs to be something, and it should also be like a landmark that dance is being seen, not just somewhere. And now it's a beautiful space.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
I was there. And can you? I'm just interested, just approximately how many, when you were a director, how many proposals, or I don't know, applications each year you have from the dance companies or dancers or somebody else who want to use the studios, the space, the venue? Is it a lot of dancers and companies?
Yes, because it was also in around the 80s, like, it's the city decided to have a person responsible for independent dance scene, for the independent theater scene, for the music scene. So politically, the structure also changed according to the needs. And then when, like, sometimes I would say these short piece platforms where you don't need to write the whole dossier. It's like you have an idea, and we wanted to see, like, what's really triggering you. Where is your passion for this? Are you taking risks? And then more and more also people from Berlin applied. It got bigger and bigger, and out of that's how it was. And then it was full evening pieces, length pieces, or maybe shared evening or triple bills things. And in the summer we had a performance festival. It was also when this performance as an art form, which is not dance performance, it's like
it's different. It's different things.
You know quite well. And that was also, this idea came because the studios you couldn't see, and it was during the drug scene in Zurich that the woman who started said, we are dancers, we're working, we need to be seen, so we go out in the summer when everybody swims at the lake, we have a festival.
Cool. And the festival still exists?
No, because then, like, Gästerallee had more performances. It was different festivals took over, and the city decided we can only support 1 or 2.
Okay, so may I ask you also something about your work with Zeitsprung? So after that's what I actually found on the web page of the Zeitsprung company, that after you left the Tanzhaus, you started your creative work together with Kilian. Yes, and I knew from Kilian, I didn't find it on the website, but I knew that you did some quite of social projects. You were in Asia, in Georgia, in different countries. You it's not only about performing, or
Yeah.
but also to work with different people and to give them some support from, I don't know how. So tell me something about this kind of activity you provide with the company.
So like I started with Kilian, and we came in the first piece, the duo we also performed in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Meeting like two dancers with two different bodies, different generations, physicality, and it's really about this meeting. And then we thought, and everybody thought, you need to continue. And we thought we could do this also in a group, and asked others, one dancer originally from Taiwan, a dancer from Barcelona who studied with Kilian, and a musician who is from Mozambique but had studied in Holland also. And we created a piece. And then Kilian and I thought, for a reason, how can we offer dance or art to people who don't go to the theater? What are their themes? Instead of inviting people to the theater, we should go to them and listen how they like, what is a theme? Because we come up with this artistic themes and we say it's relevant, it's important.
Yeah.
But this is for a short bubble of people who go to the theater.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful to see how the whole company, these young people, they said, yes, let's do this. And so when we got this tour in Asia, we just really made sure that we always come early, that we teach, and that we also collaborate with local art scenes, to not just to deposit your art and just leave.
Yeah.
And at this, before that, even there was this idea about interactive or participatory street performances, like Yellow, you find on the website.
Yeah.
Then it was human beatbox, and it's in Zurich, or I mean, I'd say in Switzerland, there's the Swiss Dance Days, which happen in almost every bigger city in May, beginning of May, where there are not only productions, but workshops, site-specific things for everybody to participate, to dance. And that was really good because we could do these, we created these pieces also for these days and could travel with them all over Switzerland. And so in Asia, because we had extra time after the performances, after workshops, we also need to teach workshop to get, so we can stay longer, or we get hotel space.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you only get money for performing, like all the some of the countries, they don't have any money. But then when you offer them, you get something in return, which also helps you. It's not about salary, it's about being able to survive, or to live someplace. And then, like in the Philippines, Kilian had this connection, and we were lucky we could go and stay in a center for girls who have been beaten.
It sounds something like for centers for the children who was abused by their parents. Yeah.
And out of this came, we had an evening playing music, with some people who worked there, And a woman came, why don't you come to the prison?
Oh, really?
Okay, we leave in the afternoon, let's go there in the morning. And it was very touching and strong, and to see like the reality of other people. They can, and how much with dance, something can happen. And dance meaning, it's not about form, it's about being and using the possibilities that you have in your body, in your voice. Even if in the prison, there were so many women. They didn't have much space.
So you did some practice with them, yeah?
Yeah, a 2 hours workshop, I think it was.
And I think it was for some of them, it was probably the first time in their life.
Well, they had this woman coming in to do theater workshops.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and she, yeah. So that's, yeah, and then we also got into working for more like social institutions, psychiatric institutions. We would come and offer something. We had also a woman who was doing theater there, and she wanted us to bring movement into, and it's been very, very rewarding.
Mm. Yeah, and also I read about the organization, the Swiss organization, Dancers for the World.
Yes.
Which you was also collaborating with.
Yeah.
And what did you do? What did you do with them?
Well, it's a dancer from Basel. She was dancing with Nacho and Famous Names, and she also thought that how can dance and movement bring something to add to the quality of life to others who are left out by society.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we, for the first time, we went to Georgia,
mm-hmm.
where we met another organization who thinks that through the art, this can be part of peace building. Mm-hmm. And we have been back several times. And so Dances for the World is like they off. Katrin, she has many connections, and she finds out, like they were in Greece, she was in Africa. Somehow she finds people where she can go to a place and work and be creative and offer like a structure for those kids.
So it's they work mostly with the kids, or it's with any ages, with any people?
As far as I know, it's with younger people. Yeah, because also Katrin, she's a ballet dancer. It's like you wouldn't go to elderly homes, but maybe this will happen.
Uh-huh. And what is the what is actually the main idea which is behind these practices of doing dance practice with different kind of people, with children, so with non-dancers? What is the goal of this practice, and why do you think it can be helpful in some way for the people?
I think for us it's clear, and also like for Kilian, it's clear that you can reach people. It's like an African saying is, if you can talk, you can sing. If you can walk, you can dance. And it's this, when you move, when it's not about technique, and listen to, or like music, you don't need a concept, because like music goes into your body rhythm. When we did also a silent disco, the three of us, we had headphones and listening to the same music, and we moved, and the kids, they would join but not hear a sound.
They were just watching you dancing and just taking this rhythm.
It's like a virus. You're still able to use this word. And I personally, and all of us, I think what it does to us to move, we want to share. That's something we can offer. Create a situation where people can have an experience. And so it's not about making this exclusive for dancers who have a typical body for dancers. And we find everybody can find his own movement and pleasure in moving.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's also like Kilian has been engaged with company with handicapped people. It's a mixture with professional dancers, and I'm going to be in one in November, like different generations and this theme, because I think it's a universal language. That's one.
And do you think that it's also common practice now for Switzerland? Because of course I understand it's important for the third countries, as say like let's say like that, where we have a lot of poor people and this kind of children's and disabled people, but Switzerland looks like quite rich country.
It is.
From the side, it seems like you don't have poor people. So is this kind of practices is also common for Switzerland?
I would say we are a wealthy country.
Yeah.
We have like luxury is something that you see. You don't see the poor people who work every day and never have enough, but they also exist.
Mm.
And on the other side is like, we don't have a tradition of folk dance or so much. It's like we have been to countries where, like Georgia, they always dance together. Everybody knows these dances. And
Yeah.
don't have, I don't know how it is in the Ukraine.
Yeah, in Ukraine also, yeah.
And we don't have this tradition in some areas up the mountains, more like rural areas, where you find it, that whole families make music and others dance. But in the rest, no. And I think so when we come to offer something, have interactive exchange or whatever, it touches the same thing or something similar as when you dance together in a group. And it's not about who is the soloist, who is the best, who is the highest, who is all these parameters that we know from the stage. And there's a quality. I always say, like, I still teach them. It's like I'm more like a bony, skinny person. And there are people who have short legs, they have more muscles, they have a quality I don't have. So it's a specialty. Instead of saying my body doesn't fit in this idealistic form, I say you have something to offer that I can never do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and do you think that now in Switzerland, especially, the dance is quite a political art form? Or that the things that you see, is this mostly sort of entertainment dance shows, or it's more about the political and social issues? What do you see how the young people, young artists, how they react to to the life which is they live in.
I mean, you have the disco scene. Everybody goes dancing in discos for
Yeah, that's
4, 5,
that's
6
clear.
hours. But you also have the entertainment. All the big famous musicals come, or these huge shows. But I'm not part of that scene. I would say that for the last few years, queerness, gender identity has become a theme, which
Mhm.
is political.
Yeah.
And then also, yeah.
And as for me, even your work, you do it with Kilian, especially I don't know how it looks for the audiences in Switzerland, but for Ukraine at least, to see the dancers of so different generations dancing together on the stage. I'm sure that probably before you do it, nobody in Ukraine saw anything like this on the stage. So even this kind of performance can become a political thing, independent of the contest.
I agree, and it was very touching, these Q&As after our show, how people came and told us, and how also what they said, what happened to them. And also in one of the workshops in Dnipro,
Yeah.
she said, I've never been to a workshop. I'm not a dancer. I work total different world. But to see what it does, it can open up doors, especially when you don't only limit it to professional dancers. And I think this is political in a sense, because it's more difficult to get support doing this.
Really?
Yes, now in Switzerland it has changed, because now it's also about participation is one of the big words. If you want to apply for a new piece, participation, and this has to how important it is that this is all these things.
Mm-hmm.
That's a development which has, it's never like from one day to the other, it slowly grows. People do it. Or now I get asked to be in other pieces because they want old dancers.
Yeah, but yeah, that's interesting. And how actually now with this quarantine with COVID, do the artists, especially independent artists, do they get any kind of support? How do you survive in Switzerland all
Yeah,
these months? Especially young artists.
yes. We are, once again, we're lucky. There is still money and understanding for the arts. Not everybody gets some, but it's like Kilian was supposed to be on tour, performing in different places, and the company they applied to still get the money to get paid. And then you could also say how much you made last year, and then according to this, you got a percentage. And then there was an organization which was for immediate help. You could apply and they gave you a fixed amount that you can pay your bill, that you can pay your apartment, because everything was canceled and closed, as I think everywhere.
Yeah. Like everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and are you going to have the? I think Killian told me that you're going to have the new work and start rehearsals in September, October.
No, in August.
In August.
Yeah, it's like last summer, an actor and theater director and performer, he called me and said, it's so great you're still on stage. I have an idea. And I said, okay, let's meet. He's living in Denmark now. And I said, I would like to bring Kilian also to the meeting. And the three of us, it was within 5 minutes, it was clear we want to do something about ecology, in the sense that artists fly around for 1 hour talk on a symposium, one rehearsal, one performance, without even thinking what that does. And we have been engaged in trying to find ecological, like to be aware of the climate crisis. What can we do? And so we applied for money, doing a piece which is happening simultaneously in Copenhagen and in Zurich. Me in Zurich and the others in Copenhagen. And then we already had sort of set times for showings, and it was COVID, quarantine. So we said, let's try to rehearse 1 week, have Zoom rehearsals, and on Saturday, let's do a Zoom performance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because
did you already have the premiere?
No. And now somehow, because Tanzhaus, other performances where people are coming from all over, they cannot happen. And because we are easy, we live in Zurich, we don't need a speak space, we don't need stage, a set design and things like that. We say, okay, let's do it. And in the 10th or something in October. And now how can you bring somebody present who's not present? And like Zoom or internet, Skype, we only allow it maybe a tiny bit. But what are other ways? Because we are interested, can this stimulate new approaches, new artistic research? It's not about copying what you do on stage, put it on a video and send it. It's how can you overcome distance?
Yeah.
And be in the same time frame, but not in the same physical frame.
Physical space. Yeah, that's true. That's interesting, because actually what I see, there are so many actually so many interesting things happen now in online, that people become so creative to develop the live performances. And it's not only about watching somebody on the computer, somebody doing or dancing or acting. Now there are a lot of things, how artists communicate with the audience through the internet. And that's why because of this also I have this question, because I also think a lot about that. Is this situation, is this going to change the performing arts world in the nearest future? Because now we are so much have this habit to work, to communicate, to present, to see things in the internet. Do you think this will bring some changes, how performing arts will survive in the closest future?
I hope so. And on the other hand, the reality is that it takes years to bring people back into theaters. Because the work in a theater, it's not a short time work. You need to prepare, so many people have to come together. And if we have been so internationally linked.
Yeah.
Like somebody from India comes and somebody from there comes and from Africa. And I don't think that this can go on the same. And then it's the climate crisis. Like, can we use all our resources like this and forget about the next generation?
Yeah, and do you actually think that, as from your point of view, is it good or bad? Because there are some opinions that probably these changes that happen, it's actually we already see that it's good for nature, because now because of, there's no more. There are some, but not so many flights, so not pollution so many as it was half a year ago, and also these changes in the performing arts world, maybe they are really for good, not for bad.
I think so. And one is also because economy had a big drop.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a reality. My fear is that people say, well, just do it on the internet. Then you don't need a theater, you don't need rehearsal space, you don't need lights. But we do need it, because we want, artistically, we want to have also like refined work, which develops and goes beyond just copying or recording. And the live event for me is unique. And I miss this moment of being in a space with others. We look at the same thing, but we all have an individual approach. What it triggers in us, what we make out of it, is individually and can differ. And the energy of an audience built by more people, that's an energy that I love. It cannot, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely the physical presence of people being together with you in the same space. It's something that you can never change, and you can never feel it in the online communication. Maybe there will be some new technologies in the future, and yeah, I don't know, this kind of augmented reality or something like this, when you can see the sort of image or 3D person presented right in front of you. But anyway, it's not the same feeling as having people being with you in the same space and being physical. So that's we hope that people anyway will have these needs to be in the same space with the performance and come back to the theater to see the live performances, and not only watching them on the internet. That's what I think about it.
The
Yeah.
screen is flat, and there's so much nonverbal communication. And all this, you can transport information and content, like you can read about something or
Yeah.
listen to something. But the magic is when there's all these other senses, which it's like when I touch you, my body gives your body an information which doesn't need to go here or through my eyes. And so it's the same, we're in the same space, we create something. And as performers, I think we need this energy also. It might change that we also think more, what can we do outside? How can we get this concentration? How can we get this focus? Also in times when everybody's always checking the phone. So, yeah.
Yeah, but also we can't change it. It's a kind of progress which we can't stop. That's people love it. People like spend a lot of times being in the telephones, in their smartphones. They checking all the information, they reading, they watching. Even the way of thinking, I think the way of thinking for people is already changed. And
yes, and I think it's great. I'm not saying anything against it.
yeah,
but it's like how to integrate it and keep going. So it's not how the theater, the dance has developed from like step-by-step dance, like the minuets and these all like in the court and royal,
Mhm.
then the folk dancing, but then comes sort of the contemporary, where the themes or the present has to do with our lives and what goes on in the context that we live. And for me, it's dance is not about princesses and princes.
Mm.
It's beautiful to watch traditional ballet because you see people doing it and in a way that it touches you.
Yeah.
But it's more, it's wider, and which means it can reach people who don't have the education to understand all this. And for me, this is the beauty of the arts.
So do you actually think that contemporary dance has this kind of, let's say, language which is for many people which is easy to understand than, for example, classical ballet?
It's a double bind because a lot of people say,
No.
I'm not a
They
dancer, I
say,
don't
no,
understand.
they don't. I don't understand. It's what they're doing.
Yeah. So it's not obvious just because you call it contemporary that people can get something out of it. What I mean with contemporary, that also me as a dancer and my friends or family or my neighborhood, it's I'm aware of the context that we live in. So it's also like going to these social institutions. What is their context? What's their way of expressing something? We can learn so much from other people. And if it's an exchange, it can add so much to our own art.
Yeah, and I think this is the way how we can make dance more accessible for
Yes.
the audience. So it's not only about us as an artist, but also about the people who come to see. So they should sort of watch as they watch in the mirror and see how their own life and their habits, their surroundings, how it reflects in the things that happen on the stage. This is, I think, one of the ways.
Yeah. And also, like, there is this how can you invite people into what you're doing?
Hmm.
And that's part of how do we want to survive on this planet if we are not inviting everybody on this boat? Otherwise it's going to sink.
Yeah, that's true. So okay, thank you. And I want to just to say that we're going actually to meet live in autumn in Ukraine. I hope this happened with the support of Pro Helvetia. Let's see, and let's hope that we don't have this second wave of COVID, which many people talk about, and nobody knows what will happen, but we all hope that the things will get better in autumn. So we are actually waiting to see you back, to have you back in Ukraine whenever. I hope September, October, but maybe also later.
Yeah, and we're very happy. We really, and thank you, Anton, and the whole wonderful people, and how you go for your passion, how you want to share this with everybody, and what you do and what you come up with. And this is very, I mean, this is very precious. So we really hope it's going to happen.
Yeah, thank you. And actually for me and for us, this is also, I would say, this communication with international community, with dancers, choreographers, with people who create art. For me, especially myself, that's actually why I do what I do, because being isolated in the local community is also good, but for me it's not enough. For me it's always important to have this people come in and this artistic exchange and the energy exchange and feeling that we are not only in our small bubble here, but we are also a part of kind of international community. It's also very important. So thank you also for coming, and let's hope that we'll see each other again in this year.
I think now we have all this internet. We are so much part of a global world.
Yeah.
That you cannot just close off and follow your tunnel, because we learn so much from you. And so this learning and exchanging and sharing, I find this is very, very important on all different levels. Not always easy, but I just don't want to give it up.
Okay, so let's make a final point on this. Let's don't give it up, and let's wait for our next meeting. Thank you very much for joining me, for answering the questions, and we'll be waiting for you here in Ukraine, and
We'll see.
whenever.
And you're always welcome back in Zurich.
Okay, thank you, Meret, and
Welcome.
have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.